know what supply chain management. So supply chain management, just give you is the management of all activity that facilitate the fulfillment of a customer order for a manufactured good to achieve customer satisfaction at reasonable cost. So if you look at Woolworths, say, for example, fast food people, if you look at the video presentations, so the product from farmers, growers, say for example, if you look at sweet corn or apples, different types of fruits, vegetables, from growers, farmers to the final consumers. So what you can see that video presentation, so we would implement, the quality assurance, quality management principle to make sure they deliver the high quality, fresh, product actually to the final consumer. Requires several operational activities for supply chain. So we have, of course, we working closely with suppliers. We have purchasing, we have transportation, and then you can see inventory management, stock, yeah, managing a risk that may disrupt the supply chain. How we measure supply chain performance. This is one particular, we talk about the economic growth, right? So the topic today is the digitalization supply chain in agribusiness or food sector, food and beverages, for economic growth. And then to ensure sustainability as well. Now, I wanted to share about the Australia agribusiness, okay, and food. So Australia agribusiness and food sector is undergoing rapid change because of globalization. So we export uh, red meat, beef, kangaroo meat, lamb to more than 100 countries around the world, including processed beef, live cattle, highly competitive local and export meat market. Increase production efficiency, that's one particular goal for the Australia agribusiness, and quicker production cycle. The delivery time are all contributing factor to this change. Now, a trend towards more outsourcing of activity and the rapid development of the use of information technology, the use of digitalization have also played a role in increase in efficiency. Okay. Um, to give you snapshots about the Australian meat industry, it is the fourth highest commodity export earner, right? So we have dairy, red meat, grains, all the product actually highest commodity export earner. So we do export a lot for the meat to other countries. So we export more than 65% of each production to over 100 countries around the world. So the majority in US, Japan, China, and other countries in Europe, Southeast Asia. The value of production increased by $2.5 billion in the last 5 years. Now, for the meat industry, also provide employment more than 50,000 people. So if you look at this is the beef supply chain. When I did develop beef supply chain structures 10 years ago, when finishing my doctorate degree, I developed beef supply chain structure. So if you look at the yellow on the left hand side, this we call upstream supply chain for beef. So start from breeding property, feedlot, backgrounding, and this about the cattle producers, what we call upstream for beef supply chain. Now, once we have upstream, we have um, beef processing industry, what we call abattoir. So this is a poker firm, and once we have finished product, we export, right? And then the importer basically deliver or distribute to the wholesaler for their countries, butcher shop, food services, and then of course their final consumers. Now for domestic consumption, from the abattoir beef processing, we have wholesaler and retailers in Australia. So more than 700 or 1,000 wholesalers meet in Australia. So you can see the food processing, and we have a butcher shop, supermarkets, and a domestic consumer. So if you look at light blue, is what we call downstream for beef supply chain. So we have food services, we have wholesaler, we have supermarkets or butcher shops, right? And final consumers. So the beef supply chain is more about, this is about global supply chain. So export and import some product as well from overseas. So this is what we call global supply chain. So it's what we call is a global logistics. Okay. Now, I published quite a lot of papers in the area of the Australia beef supply chain, right? So you can read papers if you have time. The paper about beef supply chain, I developed the supply chain performance indicators for their economic growth for the competitive advantage. So one is the quality, efficiency, responsiveness, and flexibility. So quality, we look at the food and meat quality, looking at the animal welfare and health, right? Occupational health and safety in the food processing or in the cattle producers, um, environment, skill experienced employee in terms of we need to have high quality skill who work people working in the sector, also record of all inspection tests performed. And second element for indicators performance supply chain if for beef industry is efficiency, looking at the operational costs, farm or abattoir or plant costs, inventory costs, waste costs, transportation labor costs, and profitability. Responsiveness, looking at customer response time, lead time, back orders, and customer return, because if something goes wrong with the product, on time delivery, and then also flexibility in terms of operation, volume, delivery, and handle the late orders. This is the competitive advantage. I'm talking about the economic growth, framework. The economic, we're looking at the price, time to market, sales growth, and the quality. So the four domains in a competitive advantage framework. Now, I wanted to start now about supply chain digitalization. So supply chain digitalization, well, it's just about like nearly 4 years now in terms of the research. So supply chain digitalization is the extent to which a focal plan implement novel digital in technology in the supply chain processes to conduct business with its supplier and customers, and the degree to which these technologies transform supply chain capability and supply chain performance. Several studies 4 years ago, Guria, Lepper, and Dole Omo so have shown that digital technology play a critical role in managing supply chain processes, such as the implementing a barcoding, implementing tracking traceability requirement, such as scanning technology. For cattle, they introduce ear tag to determine the specification of cattle in terms of the ages, the gender, or the fat level, different types of the configuration of cattle by looking at ear tag, right? So using at the chip ear attached to the ear of the cattle, so this particular can capture the data. Say for example, if you have a big farm and you have a more than 1,000 cattle, then we need to have a technology, right, to manage the supply chain process. capture the data, capture whether the animal is ready, and check their fat level, and different types of specification of the product or the element of the animal or live animal. Now, digital technology allowing for the integration of data and information from disparate sources and location to drive the production and distribution of goods and services. So this is a starting point for digital technology related to the data, big data, right? Different types of information. What I mentioned information here in supply chain is just a demand information, price, stock or inventory, product information, the market or customer information, say for example. So the all particular data information, digital technology can support and can help with particular things. Now, I wanted to share with you one more video about supply chain digitalization, just giving you, basic understanding supply chain digitalization, okay? So just check this video so everybody can see.
Opportunity to move away from their stuck processes and to position themselves in a modern and global way. The goal of the digital supply chain is to automate, simplify, and digitize processes, as well as create collaboration between all partners. This is the challenge to survive in the global market. 3 requirements are necessary for this: an optimized organization in all participating companies, the implementation of a central IT solution, and an efficient supply chain structure. The same knowledge is shared across all departments. Information must always be completely accessible to all parties involved and not stored in insurmountable silos. Standardized processes support the automation of manual tasks. Clearly defined responsibilities avoid overlaps of redundant tasks and define the respective responsibilities in the company. In addition to the organization, a stable structure of the supply chain is essential. Due to digitization, all participants work on one database. The flow of information on a digital basis enables immediate changes in the procurement, production, and delivery processes. By controlling the supply chain, errors can be detected earlier and corrections made in the shortest possible time. Due to the measurement of the processes, a reduction in costs, time, and effort is guaranteed. The consolidation of data, workflows, and communication on a central IT solution revolutionizes supply chain. The procurement and logistics processes are digitalized, and communication takes place via one system. The maintenance of Excel sheets per product range or the tracking of the information sent by email, fax, or other means is eliminated. This is how a central IT solution works as an integration portal. By overcoming the boundaries between all departments, external as well as internal, and creates complete transparency. In order to be modern and to truly digitize a company, these requirements are indispensable. This is exactly what SetLog does. Since more than 1 decade, SetLog
All right. So if you look at what requirement of the digitalization in supply chain, so you can see I mentioned before about supply chain structure. So that's one example about beef supply chain. So say for example, you do research in the fresh produce supply chain or apples or kiwi or rice supply chain. So I'm currently supervising with Pak Bayu. Okay, I think maybe Pak Muhammad here. So he also doing about rice supply chain, right? Now, this is about supply chain structure, right? So you look at end-to-end supply chain from producer, and you got focal firm, which is manufacturing, production, processing, and then you can see you have a retail, wholesaling, and distribution, and you have final consumer. Right, so can we go back to the slide again? So just check. If we have time, I'm more than happy to share a couple more videos, right? So I'm more than happy if you have any question, you'll be able to ask, and then we can have more time for discussion later on if you would like to engage with me for this Zoom conversation. Okay. Now, this is interesting, right? So I would like to share about in the longer term, combined and connected technology will unlock new mechanisms for creating and distributing value. So would be useful for agribusiness as well as food and beverages industry for any sector. We talk about industry 4.0. We talk about the digitalization, one of the element of the um, converging technology. So for example, creating value from converging technology. So I would like to start with the what kind of technology we're talking about here. The first one is, say, for example, Internet of Things. Everything's the internet, right? Digitalization, clouding based technology. And the second element is advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, say, for example, machine learning, right? And augmented reality, virtual reality, right? Using it, particular glasses to capture data and to inform. Say, for example, you have a big farm. So the augmented reality or virtual reality can detect the cattle, like some cattle missing, say, for example, or to look at capturing data information, the cattle, the timing cattle is really ready for processing, right? To make a rendang or to make curry. So there's certain age for cattle, right? To be processed, or the certain age of cattle to, uh, be exported to other countries. So uh, we be able to export live animal, right? But the buyer or international buyers from overseas, they need to comply with animal welfare regulation from Australia. What does it mean? It means that if we export very young or baby cattle, right? Um, Unfortunately, you cannot make rendang from 3 years cattle or 1 year cattle, say, for example. So you need to comply with animal welfare regulation, right? So this particular, we need to look at supply chain policy, right? And then advanced robotics. So in particular, COVID, a lot of food, drink or beverages industry or agri-tech, they use a robotic, right? Even Coca-Cola Amatil or Pepsi Cola, they use robotics, right? For packaging, for product handling, they use a robotics, right? Even Amazon, they use a robotics in their warehouse, right? And then 3D printing, right? And blockchain as well in the technology. But if we have time, I want to show to you blockchain in agriculture or agribusiness, in the farm, right? So you'll be able to see the blockchain. Now, the value, what I mentioned value mechanism here is, if we have the technology, we need to understand the skills, new skills, technology augmented operators, accelerating sustainable production. So if you look at the orange color, looking at the process, how smart the process there, right? And operating machine productivity, because the technology can improve the productivity for workforce. And then smart structure, location, and scalability of the end-to-end supply chain. So look at structure, the location of the distribution or location of the potential customers, or this is what we talk about segmentation, market location, right? Now, smart innovation and engineering, because all the product you need to look at R&D, research and development. We need to have innovation. We need to have product innovation, process innovation, and engineering there. Technology in terms of digitalization, orchestration of the supply chain. This is the area I focus more for my research in the next 3 5 years, right? So digital orchestration of the supply chain in agribusiness specifically. So if you do research project, if you wanting to do doctor philosophy or research or your thesis, the one particular topic might be useful for today as a guest speaker. You pick up the topic. Yes, this topic is good topic for my doctorate degree. This topic is good for my research thesis, and I'm more than happy to have a good conversation, more details for your subtopic. Okay. Now, digital supply chain is huge, but you need to just narrow it down what particular subtopic under digital orchestration of the supply chain. Now, smart and personalized products and new business model since the COVID attacked into more than 221 countries around the world. A lot of businesses start thinking what gonna be new business model for the post-COVID. What is the new business model, for the new normal, right? And then productivity and efficiency is a very common, right? We need to have a value, productivity, efficiency for supply chain. New growth, economic growth, and new value creation. So the technology can support the process, also can establish the new growth potential value creation. Of course, you have a digital experiences. Now, once we have the value, you look at challenges. Challenges in terms of technological readiness, security standards, interoperability, data management itself, or change management or structure in your business as well, and then culture awareness. If you look at on the left hand side, this is we talk about stakeholders, including yourself, individual, society, industry, organization, government, and also including factory. So this is more integrated digitalization context from value itself, you know, stakeholders, convergent technology, you can see from the top there, and then including what challenges. Now, this is something I wanted to share. Maybe I can just give it to moderator, but by you, if you have time, for our guest speaker, I'm more than happy to share the link to you. A very, very good, actually, the video, those particular, I, got quite a lot of project with DHL, different types of industry. So you'll be able to watch, right? And then have better understanding for that in, after Q&A session, if you have time. Now, talking about agribusiness supply chain, this is something I presented in Dubai for post-COVID-19, but I'm thinking I would like to share a little bit, not in details, because for post-COVID-19, for agribusiness, food and beverages industry. So with the new normal, the post-COVID, in particular for Indonesia right now, businesses, agribusiness need to think about continuity plan, the business continuity plan. So unfortunately, the business model is slightly different before COVID and now after COVID, right? So why? Because with after COVID, post-COVID, you need to relook at again the market opportunities, looking at, what capability supply chain from farmers' side, say for example, any changes policy of governments in relation to COVID, Indonesia, what we call prokes, isn't it? Prokes is menurutin, prokes dari pemerintah, for example. So on the business continuity plan, you need to consider several elements, right? Including here in Australia, the same thing. Now, the good thing in the Western Australia, we don't have any cases for COVID. It's completely zero. That's a good thing. A student go back to the campus and student having exam, right? Even my subject having exam, student come to the uni to have not online exam, face-to-face exam, so invigilated exam. So Student having on campus in the past 3 semesters already. We just only have one online, which is semester one in 2020, which is, every, countries like, 2020, which is the alpha strain, isn't it? Now the people call delta strains. Now, I don't want to talk too much about COVID. Now, second element about this is a lean thinking approach. We want to look at cost reduction, supply chain in the area. When we learn about economics or finance, the business want to get profit, so sales revenue, right, minus costs. If you can reduce costs, right, and even though your sales revenue is pretty much constant, right, if you can increase sales revenue is very good, right, then you can have a profit. So it's a very common, it's a logical thinking. So the business thinking for the new normal post-COVID, the majority the business want to still implement lean thinking approach, cost reduction. And the business not only apply lean thinking approach, they need to do agility, which is the quick response. What does make quick response? Any changes, uncertainties, they have to make sure, be agile for any different types of environment. Inventory, and also sources of supply, governments and businesses. We review what product they need local manufacturing or what product need more than one source of supply. Um, Invest more in digital resources. Okay, that's supply chain digitalization I just mentioned about here. The artificial intelligence to reduce dependencies in human labor, right? But I'm not saying that we're not using workforce, right? Human labor, but human labor, we can just look at a different types of tasks or responsibilities, but the technology just only support, right? Not replace, right? The human labor. So transforming IT solution to maintain improve the connectivity between people, assisting to improve work-life balance and sustainability, and so forth, right? Now, this is a project I think I've been working even before COVID about halal food supply chain. So my doctoral student completed degree. They did very well. We published together with my doctorate student. One of my PhD student from Malaysia, one of my PhD student from Indonesia. The two of them, they finished project about halal food supply chain. We published very good articles into the top journals in Q1 and Q2. So in this room, if you think that we would like to work together for paper publication, look, because I been doing a lot of project in agribusiness, right? For agriculture. So even my doctorate degree for the beef supply chain, so I know very well for the agriculture in the supply chain. Yeah, so as you know, halal food supply chain project. So I published more than 4 papers. So you'll be able to look at Journal Islamic Marketing, International Journal of Logistic Management. I would like to share with you the list of articles so you'll be able to download and read, right? And then I'm more than happy to look at what particular opportunities in the future, and then we can strengthen to improve the Universitas Pajajaran to be the top 3, right, for the Scopus research ranking. Yeah, so we want that. So that's why we need to get more papers. So the three, one of my doctorate student, so he's now is a dean at the Muhammadiyah Malang University, Professor Ilyas Masudin. He was my doctoral student back then. It was when I was teaching at RMIT University. So I published with him more than 6 or 7 articles, Q1 and Q2. I said, this good for you. You can apply Guru Besar, right? Professor. So now my target, we need to get more Guru Besar for Pajajaran Universitas. Okay. So Undip with Professor Ari Susanti, the same thing, di Ponegoro di Tembalang. So, and then now we focus more Pajajaran University. So get more Guru Besar, get published, do research together, right? Writing more papers. right? Now, this is about halal food supply chain. So everybody know halal supply chain is process planning, implementation, controlling efficient flow, storage, halal certified product from source to the demand point. So the product remain halal if you look at processed halal food, right? From the beginning, right? From the process, even from the, including the packaging, including transportation to the demand point, to the supermarket, to the shelf, right? So as you know why we talk about halal food supply chain, because we comply with the Sharia law principle. Okay, this about I've been doing research project halal food supply chain maybe more than 7 8 years now. So I just want to give you a little bit more about this, not very detailed, but you can read my paper about that. Okay. Now, this is halal food supply chain framework, um, you know, more than 10 years now, based on Lodi 2009. So you can see the farm from upstream and then to downstream. Okay. So you can see this is about halal food supply chain structure, right? In the general. This is the literature review for halal food supply chains. I don't want to, but I'm more than happy to share to moderator about my slides, so you'll be able to read and see what literature review for halal food supply chain. Okay. All right. So this is just published a lot of papers. These are mentioned by Ilyas Masudin. Now he's the dean at Muhammadiyah Malang University. We published together in Q1, right? Q1. So impact of halal supplier service quality and staff readiness to adopt halal technology on halal logistic performance, a study of Indonesia halal meat supply chain. So this particular, we received funding from DICTI, is that DICTI? About halal logistics. Perhaps we can maybe do more for Unpad Pajajaran, what area we can do research. Then we need to publish, not only doing research. So this is one example, we need to get published paper. And the paper about beef, I published 6 or 7 years ago with Ming Juan Ding, the paper about relationship between quality of information sharing and supply chain food quality. That's paper also with the British Food Journal as well. And then this is a paper about halal as well, about with my doctorate student, Hafiz Zulfakar, halal accreditation certification in a non-Muslim country setting, insight from Australia halal meat supply chain, International Journal Supply Chain Management. And yeah, so that's paper with Pak Ujang Maman, this halal risk mitigation in the Australia, Indonesia, red meat supply chain, Journal Islamic Marketing. This is a thing with the with Universitas Islam Negeri di Jakarta, I think, yeah. Pak Ujang Maman, Professor Ujang Maman. Now he's become professor now. Okay, so this is with Professor Arya Susanti with Undip, right? So we talk about dairy, dairy milk supply chain, empirical model of trust, loyalty, and business performance of the dairy milk supply chain. Okay, it's a British Food Journal, which is Q1. Okay, that's a previous grant, so I think I mentioned before, this funded by DICTI. All right, so any questions? So I just would like to return to moderator, but if we have time, I would like to show the video presentation as well. But I'm more than happy to have a lot more questions and start the discussion, taking a lot more questions. Please ask question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ferry, for the informative and interesting talk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have about less than 1 hour. Now we come to the Q&A session. If you would like to ask questions, please raise your hand. I will call your name and please introduce yourself first before asking the question. And now let me invite three first participants to ask the questions. So any questions?
Fine.
Please. Okay, okay, please, Bapak Muhammad Arif Budiman, please.
Hello, Prof.
Hello, Pak Muhammad. How are you?
I'm fine, thank
Very
you.
good. He's one of my doctoral student now. It's very good. How's your thesis?
I'm doing just discuss with Prof. Maman.
Oh, good.
Still discuss with him. How are you, Prof?
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask you about how do the small farmers can use or can dabbling splash this digital supply chain system in Australia, small farmers,
Yeah.
or just only the next part or next player who can take that chain. Thank you.
Very good questions. Yeah. So when we look at the business level, we have micro, small, medium, enterprises, and you got large organization or multinational corporations, right? So no doubt, actually, the big farm, if you have more than, say, for example, cattle or, big farms, say, for example, majority they use the technology for that. Now, the short answer is yes or no. In Australia, actually, even the small farm, we try to introduce in the past or just before COVID, we have you know, the Australia Farming Council. So we have a congress. We normally inform the technology out there and what particular technology can be used, right? For your business, right? Um, Regardless micro, small, medium enterprises. Of course, actually, for particular small farmers, they use particular different stages, a different level, right? Compared to the medium or large enterprises, right? Or farmers. Say, for example, in um, currently we just had a signing MOU with Boyac Group, which is a Southwest farming, in Boyac Group Shire in Western Australia. So with us, with the Covered University to have what particular technology or agri-tech to insist, majority actually, small or family, right, businesses, like, say, for example, father or kids or mother, they use the same, we there are 4 steps actually to make sure they understand, right, what is it for, the technology. We need to assess their knowledge as well. And this first element, we need to make sure we can't just, there's a big gap otherwise, because their knowledge, their understanding is nothing. But you just suddenly introduce blockchain, but they have no idea what's blockchain, right? And first one, we need to assess their knowledge and capability, right? As the owners, as the management for the farm, for the small business, right? Number two, for the small farmers, after you assess, right? So you need to have um, the mini workshop only targeting for the small farmers. So the mini workshop is a very simple messages and then gaining understanding and knowledge for them, right? We can't simply give like high tech for them. We sit down with them. They need to understand their business model. They need to understand their operation, their supply chain structure. This is the only problem, because so many businesses, they implement the technology, but they have no idea their business, their supply chain structure, right? They have no idea their supply chain structure. So um, it's very difficult otherwise, because if you're using the technology, you have no idea the model structure, who are your transportation company, who you're working with in terms of the processing, Say, for example, you're a grower. So you have a farm of carrots or pineapples, say, for example. You need to understand how many your industry partners, who are your potential customers. Say, for example, that's we talk about structure. Then once they understand the supply chain structure, the step two, step three, right? And then we can try to train them, right? And to have pilot. We need to do pilot, right? You know, pilot means like to test, right? Whether
Okay.
it works well, and then
Pilot
to
like what?
verify.
Sorry.
So when you introduce the technology, right? So you need to, give the pilot test in terms of demonstration, in particular small farm. So then they have better understanding for that. So it takes time for them. Of course, actually, once you design the technology for them, you have to do pilot tests, right? Pilot for the small farm. Okay, so the step one, assessing their capability. Step two is the supply chain structure, as well as understanding the business model, what they have. Number three, to open their mindset to let, innovating technology
Yeah.
to be implemented to the small farm. Of course, when the way they design, you need to have a lot of conversation with them, right? And then, of course, you need to do pilot testing. Okay. And when you do pilot testing, before you buy anything as a small farm, looking at any opportunity, any government to support you,
Oh,
any opportunities in terms of investment fund to support the technology to be implemented for your business.
by the
Because otherwise, when you say, oh, looking good, but unfortunately, you know, it's too expensive, or maybe,
yeah
this is what we talk about feasibility study,
yeah
right? Feasibility study in terms of funding, in terms of financial feasibility study, when we learn about the discounted cash flow or payback period, right? In the economics or in a financial, management. So looking at kind of depreciation of technology, you can calculate the return on investment really, right? But do you think that the small farm understand that? Because majority maybe they don't not finish the high school. Maybe
yeah
they're not going to TAFE or
yeah
vocational education study. They don't understand what ROI,
yeah
what
yeah
is the net present value, whatever they call, different types of technology, financial management or interest rate, right? So you have to give them what skill needed for them. This
yeah
is very important because when you go there, you have no idea what they're looking for, and otherwise it's not effective, right? It's useless. So this is something is very useful. I suggest there are 5 steps, right? Now, of course, we need to have collaboration. The universities, the farming, right?
yeah
Federation, government, right? That particular three stakeholders, they're
yeah
working together because this very good opportunity for universities to do research, right?
yeah
Um, particular now using technology, online digitalization, right? Cloud-based. So you put everything, your data into the cloud, say for example, okay?
okay
Especially now the business growing, okay? Because small business is gonna be growing in the next 5 years, right? We talk about the economic growth, the business growing. So they have to think about it. What's gonna be opportunity? What's gonna be strategic plan in the 2025 onwards? Whether or
yeah
not, because they have to just decide whether they need to implement the digitalization. So digitalization is it's very broad, but you need to pinpoint the what particular technology what we're talking about here. So hopefully I answer your question, Pak Muhammad.
I try to compare with Indonesian situation,
Yes.
which is more than 80% more than 80%, I think, which small farmers include in belonging small farmers. I think the important thing, handphone is the important thing to make them apa, make them can apa bisa bisa menyerap informasi dari handphone mungkin. Nah, I think with handphone they can to dapat informasi dari ya segalanya. What do you think about that?
Of course, the mobility, right? Smart mobility in terms of the technology like phones, right? Now these days, actually, even like they can use mobile phone, right? Of course, mobile phone can capture any data,
Yeah,
isn't it, right?
of course, yeah.
You see, the capturing data. But again, you need to understand what data information is available for farming. What is it for? Is that my understanding for data information is for decision making, to assist for the decision making. I give example. Data for phone can capture, say for example, if you have um, so many, like say for example, so strawberries farm, right? Strawberries farm. So of course, actually you can use, for example, for data phone, you can look at GPS, right? Look at very simple in terms of location. We know that, right? But for the phone, you can capture what kind of information for strawberries, right? Is that the product actually volume, in terms of potential customers, right? Whether or not you want to do online seller and buyer online, you know, using your mobile or iPad, yeah. So this we talk about downstream supply chain digitalization, because you're using your mobile phone in terms of seller buyer online, right? So you put everything, your product actually into, say for example, you got farm stay or strawberry farm visit, and you know, selling the tickets, people can come to pick up the strawberries, say for example 500 grams, how much money, or you know, 1 kilogram, and you can, you know, capture that customer as a customer database, right? That's a simple message for the customer information. Now again, a lot of benefit potential that we need to think about the purpose, the objective itself for the digitalization. So is that mobile phone, is that something, is a good start? Maybe yes or no, looking at, you know, that's why we need to assess what tangible technology is available for you, and how much actually budget in terms of budgeting in terms of your business, right? Because you can't simply have robotic drone technology, so expensive, you know, unless you are mining industry, because I just attended mining conference. They use a drone technology or small aircraft, you know, like if you drill, you know, underground, right? Like 500 meters, you know, underground.
Yeah.
So you simply use a little aeroplane, you know, drone technology to assess, to observe what is in there, right? Rather than you ask somebody to go inside, right? So that particular is the example, right? When I look at how much for the drone, what is the drone technology, 75 or 85,000 Australian dollars? Just only mini aircraft. It's just like one, it's about 3 cars, Honda cars, isn't it? In Indonesia, and you can get one drone. Right, that's an example. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will invite another participant to ask the question, please.
Maybe I, pardon me, I need to ask anybody to show video camera so I can see you, even though we have virtual, yeah.
Yes, please.
This is more engagement, so I don't want to see you all only black screen. So I would like to see you with green, with smile, and we are in the new normal, okay, for Bandung, particular for Australia. So even though we cannot meet in person, but we can see you, in the video. If you don't mind, just turn on your video, if you don't mind, okay? Then I would like to see you. Now, this is more interaction. You can ask question, but if still waiting the question, then I can turn on the video. Okay, I still have a 3 or 4 more video, and then we have a more discussion. Okay.
Okay, so
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Mr.
Pak Indra, yes. How are
Let
you, Pak
me.
Indra?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Many thanks. I'm fine. Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice meeting you, Pak Indra.
I'm sorry, maybe my English is not too good, but
No problem lah. You can do
Yes.
gado-gado. No problem.
Actually, my background is in information technology. I am very concerning about how the information can distribute it to related participant, related group, so the information can be retrieved very accurately and useful for us to do the right marketing mechanism. We are very concerned with the Indonesian farmer situation. Many of them are live in behind the poverty line. Yeah, the best condition for them is near the poverty line and near upper the poverty line. That's so contradictive because Indonesia is agriculture country. Yeah, in measuring PDB, I think still in agriculture sector support the large GDP portion or sharing. Yeah. How the priority of the marketing monitoring system in our proposed digitalization supply chain? Yeah. That's the question. So the government and the particular participant, party, can decide the right price for our product to be sold to the market price. So this condition can make our farmer improve the result from this agricultural sector. Many thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think it's very good questions. Okay, just go back with the monitoring system. This is, we look at the supply chain benchmarking practices. What is the best context in terms of monitoring operational, farm management system in the rural sector, say, for example. So monitoring, what I mentioned here, monitoring, there are two perspectives are you looking at. The traditional monitoring approach, it means that you can see the internal, right, farm management system in terms of the governance, in terms of your own process in the farm, in the agribusiness, or in your sector. And then we look at external, the perspective monitoring. That particular, you look at any opportunities. So any opportunities is something you can see. Monitoring approach, you need to work more closely with the academic scholars. So no wonder I can see Pajajaran University having good collaboration with the farmers, right? So I remember Pak Muhammad would like to collect data, right, for his PhD. So he need to go there to reach farmers, right? Petani, right? So this something is a good approach. We can do very well collaboration, like good example for Pajajaran Universitas or IPB di Bogor, right? Atau di Jambi, Universitas Jambi di Jambi. Jadi, so they have a good approach. This is what we call supply chain partnership or collaboration. So, and now Australia actually want to do focus more collaboration with the industry, right? So I think it's a monitoring approach, start from there. If without any collaboration, it's so hard to monitor what you need, what particular I can assist you, right? So monitoring, this is in this regard, we talk about interrogation. Interrogation, it means that I can see, yes, what particular you need and what we can do for you in terms of to improve your business or to improve your supply chain performance. So this particular context, our guest speaker this morning is still very early with introducing digitalization. It's a lot more serious about digitalization supply chain. So because the digitalization supply chain now is a more introduction, because their second series could be more application, as the third series could be analyzing, the fourth series could be modeling, the last would be the reporting, or could be to see any tangible benefits for that. Okay, so yeah, so I think, hang on, I just one thing, I just want to switch on the battery first. My battery nearly 10%. 1 second. Okay, so the second approach with the monitoring, I think I mentioned about the external, right, context, looking at what opportunities, collaboration, maybe the technology adoption when you want to set up the technology already in the micro level or in maybe in the early stage, right? So I think, Pak Indra, what I can suggest to you in this particular context, it could be useful for your thesis topic or could be the next project, looking at the monitoring approach. What kind of digitalization mechanism to monitor? This is a monitor and controlling system. Does make sense? So not necessarily you have to just design or make a prototype or make a platform for the farmers, but you can make a process flowchart for that. Controlling a mechanism, right? So this is a very good approach. Okay. Now, any questions? Okay, while we waiting for other question, I think I want to share one more video, Bapak Ibu, maybe if you don't mind, and then I can just see whether it's very useful. This is about the blockchains, transforming food and agribusiness. It's a very good video. It's about 3 minutes. Please feel free to listen.
The industry has been established in terms of data flows on things like compliance, audit, licensing. That's a traditional model. It's involved people visiting things like farms and factories. So it's a very traditional, structured, paper-based, historical kind of model. Now we're moving into the sort of the age of the consumer and customer. That's much more new, but it's also involving potentially lots more data to be collected in the supply chain. So what we're trying to do is link that traditional and new forms of data and take it into Industry 4.0 and then link that into things like blockchain. That all falls into that digital transformation space.
Blockchain is actually started to become synonymous of trust as a service. So imagine that in industries like agriculture, from sugar to cane to rice to wine, organizations are creating assets that needs to be exported or sold overseas. And they want to know that in the production of that asset, all the standards around ethical sourcing, sustainability practices will all have been met. And not just by trusting the supplier, but being able to see that in such a way that you would be able to trace back who did what when and carry that type of liability for those actions. Those are the opportunities that these type of technologies will bring to life.
About 18 months ago, Cane Growers was looking at how we could use blockchain technology to try and get value back to growers who have been asked by the buyers of sugar to demonstrate their sustainability credentials. Growers have been asked to do more and more. And there's a bigger demand for producing sustainable sugar. So we're saying, well, if there's demand for sustainable sugar, surely there's some value there. So we think blockchain could do that, and we could actually get that value right back to the grower who's been asked to do something different.
Blockchain is an important enabler for Sunrise because it allows us to bring together our stories and information, and importantly our credentials, and share them in a very trusted way with our customers and our consumers.
Prior to this project, we were very paper-based in our record keeping, from the vineyard notes to the winery notes. So having all that data in one system and available to our clients, you can't hide anything, it's all there. So it creates honesty in your story that you tell.
So I think for me, when I look at blockchain and I look at the technologies and I look at a firm such as KPMG, there's a connectivity there and it links it back to assurance. And so for us, that banner around KPMG's food assurance and what we offer to the market is strengthened and underpinned by our technology capability. And of course, that links to blockchain and the Origins product overall.
I think the secret of our success with working with KPMG Origins through Laszlo is that we bring our skills in the food and agri supply chain and we marry that with Laszlo's team. So we literally run our projects together. It's that global reach we have through something like Origins and through our traditional compliance audit network that will make us stand out as a great partner.
Okay. If you look at the blockchain, so the KPMG doing very well, working very closely with agri-food sector in terms of agri-food supply chain. So that particular basic understanding for you all to have that is a one very good topic as well for your doctor philosophy. If you're wanting to do blockchain in agri-farm, or in the farming sector, or or fresh produce, perhaps in Indonesia, or you can do the topic what we call technological readiness, in relation to Industry 4.0 for agribusiness. So Industry 4.0 topic in agri-food or food and beverages is a very, very good topic and good for publication as well. Okay. So since we have quite a lot, master student and also academic staff, we work together to publish very good paper from your project, then particularly good for university as well to get more papers in there, right? So this is something we can start thinking how we engage and we work together as a students, a research student, academic researchers, project, and all the farmers become available. I can see Pak Muhammad actually, how things going, Pak Muhammad, with your data collection? Pak Muhammad, did you travel for data collection for your thesis?
I am.
Yeah, good. How's things going with your data collection now?
Still revise the proposal.
Good. Yeah, because now is Jawa Barat is zona hijau, isn't it? So zona hijau, then you're more confident, get data collection.
Yeah,
so
I try to collect.
And then we need to have a chat. So how things going with your data, and then we'll be able to help you with that. Okay.
I will have the data primer. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Any more question? Maybe Budini can check any questions.
Yeah, I think there is time for one or two more questions, please, to the participant.
So quiet because I still have how many video, because now Budini, while I'm maybe driving there, I can give you some link of video, and then maybe I can jump in again if anyone wants to see, because I got quite a lot of video related for digitalization supply chain. After in the next 15 or 20 minutes, then I'm driving to different building, and then still can listen, but I cannot just talk because Otherwise, it's so many noise, while driving in control. Okay. Any questions?
Any question, please? Maybe one or two questions.
Can ask any
Please.
questions, not necessary about the supply chain. You can ask anything you want. Doesn't matter. I'm here. As long as I can answer your questions. Okay.
I think we have one question from the chat box,
Yes.
Prof. Ferry. From Pak Indra, just need the brief description about what improvement resulted by the blockchain implementation of KPMG.
Good.
Based on the video.
Yeah, so the video is still the progress in terms of the implementation of the blockchain, but they need more data for that in terms of what tangible benefit, what kind of improvement they need to do in terms of implementing blockchain in the agri-food or industry. So KPMG, one of the organization working very closely with the farmers in Australia, as well as other countries in Europe, to look at blockchain. This is in terms of the information sharing. So I think blockchain is more transparency in terms of data or information across end-to-end supply chain, from growers, right, to the retailers, and what kind of the transparency data information could be shared and could be improved for the process to reduce delay, or to reduce any, because food is a perishable product, because say for example like strawberries, yeah, so you cannot keep strawberry in the supermarket. It's more than 4 or 5 days, because it's going to be moldy. It's strawberries and other grapes or particular fresh produce. So this is the thing for the blockchain, can capture the dates or timeliness in terms of the product on the shelf, and then looking at how we can reduce the transportation delivery in terms of from growers or from farmers, for example, to the retail store. The only process for blockchains, they cannot reduce the number of distribution centers. They only inform, right, for decision making. With the supply chain, the longer, the complex supply chain process for fresh produce, this is something consumer cannot get product very quickly, right? The timing, the fresh produce becomes shorter, yeah? So say for example, from farmers, you need to have transportation. It takes in a day or 12 hours to go to distribution center, and then from this distribution center keep one more day, and then distribute to the retail store, supermarket, another one more day. So already 2-3 days, right? So you cannot sell more than 3 days now, because you have to sell very quickly the strawberry within 2 days. Does that make sense? So, and also, you have to think about it in terms of the blockchain can tell the information, location and allocation, the product ranges, timeliness, your the closest retailers, and you can inform customers, segmentation based customers, and this is the transparency information, and all information collected will be in the cloud, okay, the blockchain, okay, in the farming system. Okay, so any more questions?
Yeah, Pak Jeffrey, the system is very good because it's proposed the transparency. Because I'm so pessimistic, because the transparency itself will be have a kickback effect for the farmers. Yeah, more transparent, more easy for the big party to to get the product easily with cheapest price from the farmer, because so they can sort itself by the blockchain to other party by when the product was taken over by them. How you think about this phenomena?
Very good question. It's a long answer, I believe, to answer that question by Indra. So in terms of there are four principles looking at this. Number one, look at the mechanism and the governance, whether or not the process can be taken in place for all. Say, for example, you reach out the farmers and you reach out the potential project or tender to be able to introduce, this is something I want to come, and this is the project I can deal with that. I can improve the process into your business. And number two, looking at outcome approach, looking at the performance-based approach. And then number three, you look at what measurements, what instrumentation are you considering to do so. And number four, whether or not this something is have to start conversation, all stakeholders involved. Because what good thing for Indonesia, you have very good, like, conversation, congress, I think this is something very useful. This is something we have an annual conference, right? But sometimes the annual conference is too long because of every year, but it's good to have like every 2-3 months and to discuss what particular innovative research you can get that one. And then this particular area, you need to consider 4 principles for that. So did I answer your question, Pak Indra?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So, Pak Indra, are you doing thesis or what you're doing now for your research?
Actually, my research is about the subsidies for the society. Yeah. The farmers is not our field. The agriculture is not my field.
Okay.
Research field. Yeah. But it is so interested because we are live in Jawa Barat. Yeah. And current year the price of rice is so declined. Yeah. So the farmers is pada tahun ini ya banyak sekali krisis pupuk dan seterusnya, sehingga harga beras jatuh gitu. Panen-panen menghasilkan penghasilan yang di luar dari harapan bagi petani. Itu adalah concern kami. Saya yakin bahwa banyak sekali masalah-masalah ketidaksehatan dalam supply chain dan juga permainan pasar bermain di sini menyebabkan efeknya tidak menguntungkan untuk petani. Terima kasih.
Okay, we got couple put the person put up your hand.
I think there are 2 questions. Please, first from Pak Muhammad Syaifuddin, please, Pak Muhammad.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Prof. Ferry.
Good morning.
In the first, I want to say sorry about my English.
No problem. You can ask in Bahasa if you want to.
I want to ask in Bahasa, and
yes.
Saya juga ini kok tertarik sekali dengan blockchain. Kebetulan saya mempunyai rencana tesis tentang blockchain, tapi di bidang pajak, tentang pemungutan pajak. Nah, di penggunaan blockchain di agriculture ini, saya belum mempunyai fantasi, Prof. Belum mempunyai fantasi bagaimana penggunaan blockchain di bidang pertanian ini. Tapi saya sempat teringat salah satu proyek blockchain yang ada di Indonesia, yang dimana salah satu developernya itu Bapak Khatib Basri, Pak Khatib Basri, yang mantan Menteri Keuangan. Itu ada salah satu proyek blockchain yang namanya Hara Token. Hara Token itu bertujuan untuk mengetahui tentang keberadaan identitas petani, data geotagging terkait luas dan lokasi lahan produk yang ditanam, cuaca dan karakteristik tanah, serta data terkait harga dan transaksi. Nah, kalau di yang tadi dari video pemaparannya Prof. Ferry sendiri, penggunaan blockchain di agriculture itu untuk lebih detailnya bagaimana ya, Prof?
Thank you, Pak Muhammad. Blockchain implementation it depends what context ya. Tapi kalau if I can hear from what you're saying in Indonesia, you're right, because the blockchain, you can start with the soil, or you can start with the characteristic, you can start with the length of the size of the farm, establishment, the product. So I think when you look at the video, it's a more product, right? Product output. So you can start with the land, you can start with the infrastructure blockchain itself, or you can start with the product, you can start with the people. It depends what angle variables are you looking at. So it's a massive information and data could be done. So blockchain is a very new in the last 24 months, plus the COVID situation. It's still more development on that, but it's a more customized technology. What does it mean, customized technology? Because as unfortunately, this particular context cannot be generalized to other businesses. You with me, Pak Muhammad? Cannot be generalized because it's a customized, and it's a more specific, it's a more what we design, it's according to what you have. So that's a blockchain principle. So unfortunately, say for example, Ibu Yoke, you got slightly similar, but maybe slightly you can't implement what you implement in your business, Pak Muhammad Syafiq. Does that make sense? So what you design is according to what you have. It's not something that what your design is something like what everybody has. No, right? It's a slightly, it's completely different. So it's a customized technology. You need to adjust, you need to look at any data or any particular backup or contingency approach. So this particular blockchain context into the agri-farm. Now, in Australia, we have called agri-future in terms of implementing technology. One of the elements is blockchain in the agri-future. So agri-future is interesting because they're looking at what a future in the 2025 beyond, including 2050, in terms of agri-future to implement different, advanced technology like, what we call the Industry 4.0. Okay. So can I just have one more? Then afterwards, I need to give to Ibu Dini the video. Then you can still watch. Then I can take time to drive. Then maybe I can hand over to Ibu Dini and Pak Bayu, and for the closing ceremony as well. So, Bu Yoke, any questions?
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. How are you?
MFA. I'm good, thank you. From what I read in the news, the Ministry of Agriculture in Indonesia just signed MOU with Microsoft on February 2021 to modernize the sector of agriculture. From what I read, Microsoft will provide data to predict weather and crop cycles and help plan planting to increase the crop yields. It's very important because the sector contributes about 13% of Indonesia's GDP. But just like the previous participant questions, the problem is the small farmers in Indonesia are not very familiar with technology, and they live in places with poor signal provider. But we still need to boost the farmer to use smart farming in case of 4.0 era.
Yeah.
From your explanations before, can we say that there are stages in this digitalization of agribusiness? And from your professional point of view, what stage is Indonesia now? I think that's the question.
Yeah, it's a quite very hard question for me because at this moment I'm still not following what particular the trend research in Indonesia right now. I think it would be okay. So I'm really afraid if I can give a wrong answer. For me, actually, going forward for digitalization, I think you're right, actually, would be okay, because we're talking about a roadmap, ya. Roadmap itu artinya if we look at roadmap, artinya what going to be potential future research, right? Future particular project, you know, in the Indonesia currently in relation to Industry 4.0. Because if you don't have any plan and roadmap, basically you introduce something is not being used in the future for Indonesia itself. It's going to be useless and it's wasted too much resources and investment of money. So what I can suggest to you, I think roadmap, you know, plan is very important in this regard. So if I have a better understanding what particularly recently in the last 3 years for Indonesia, then I'm more than happy. But it takes time for me to understand, then I'm more than happy to suggest what, you know, in the next at least 3 years or the next, you know, we talk about planning, it's going to be short term, medium, long term planning, right? So I think one thing is you have to better understanding first, and number two, you once you have better understanding, you can draw the short to medium and longer term, the roadmap. And number three, we need to sit down with the academic in university like Pajajaran or IPB or from the government people, what we can work together in terms of, you know, with our roadmap, right? The same thing with the COVID, you know, roadmap. So what's going to do, you know, with the vaccine, right? And they have a plan, stages, right? And number four, after you have a roadmap, then, you know, any opportunity we can reach out, you know, the research funding, you know, any farmers or businesses can work with us to be as a pilot for the business, and then we can do that. Okay, and then the next stage is we can sit down together. Of course, we can do research, and then we can look at the impact of performance or output. Okay, hopefully I answer your question, Ibu. Okay, so now I sent to Ibu Dini there to YouTube, but I'm still online here. But please don't leave. We still have about 27 minutes or getting more, but do not leave, otherwise you cannot get certificate. Just joking. Anyway, because this is still learning process, yeah? So if you don't mind, can you please listen the other two? I can send one more, and then maybe I can join, you know, about in the next half an hour once I arrive, and we can have closing. Is that okay with you? Okay. Just check. Okay. Okay, so I sent 3 link now in the chatting box, Ibu Dini. If you could, maybe it takes about altogether about 10-12 minutes, and you can have a copy, right? Kopi atau teh atau apa ya. And then sambil mendengar, okay? And then hopefully I can come back in the next 20, because it takes for me it's about 15-20 minutes to go to the next building because I need to drive. Okay, so I will be back soon. Thank you very much.
Mungkin akan saya kembalikan kepada Pak Bayu, Pak.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih pada Bu Dini. Thanks for Prof for interesting presentation and films. Nah, seperti yang Prof tadi bilang atau yang seperti beliau bilang bahwa mungkin teman-teman bisa lihat video ya. Jadi ini ada 3 video, the videos that you maybe mungkin bisa melihat ya. Jadi ada video pertama, video kedua, dan juga video ketiga. Jadi teman-teman bisa download atau bisa lihat ya. Mungkin saya akan putar dulu video pertama ya. Apakah kelihatan teman-teman? Sebentar ya, saya akan share sebentar.
Belum tampil, Pak.
Oke.
Suaranya belum ada.
Maaf Pak Bayu, mungkin suaranya belum terdengar Pak.
Pak Bayu suaranya punten. Nggak keluar.
Mohon maaf Bapak Ibu ya, ada kendala suara kayaknya ya. Mungkin dari Bu Dini, apakah bisa diputar Bu Dini?
Sebentar Pak, saya coba.
Kayaknya ada kendala suara nih. Kayaknya belum ada suara ya. Mohon maaf nih.
Ya, belum ada Mas.
Belum ada ya?
Coba Bu Dini link yang kedua mungkin.
Atau mungkin misalkan apabila ada kendala teknis, mungkin nanti teman-teman bisa cek sendiri aja mungkin ya.
Iya Pak.
Coba sekali lagi aja mungkin Bu Dini ya, kalau misalkan ternyata suaranya masih belum ada, berarti mungkin teman-teman bisa download sendirilah, mungkin seperti itu.
Ya, Pak, mohon maaf, sepertinya suaranya juga masih bermasalah.
Masih belum ada ya?
Iya.
Mau dicoba lagi atau gimana?
Coba saya coba lagi ya Pak.
Kita akan coba sekali lagi ya. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kalau misalkan ternyata suaranya tetap masih belum ada, mungkin teman-teman bisa lihat sendiri mungkin ya. Karena apa? Mungkin ya kendala dari device-nya ya.
Sepertinya emang dari videonya.
Silakan Ibu. Dari ininya, dari apa? Dari komputernya, dari komputer saya dan komputer Bu ini kayaknya belum disetting kayaknya.
Saya nyoba putar sendiri juga nggak keluar suaranya Pak, sepertinya dari videonya.
Oh, kayaknya dari videonya ya. Atau mungkin coba Bu Dini kalau
Coba
pilih yang
Saya
kedua
bisa,
gimana?
Pak. Kalau putar
Nah, itu
sendiri
ada yang
bisa,
bisa soalnya ya.
ada suara.
Atau
Iya,
link yang
Pak.
kedua.
Ada suara Bu ya, putar sendiri ya.
Sepertinya
Ya
device
berarti
saya,
di
Pak.
device kita kayaknya. Nah, jadi di device saya dengan device-nya Bu Dini kayaknya belum disetting kayaknya. Cuma nggak tahu settingnya gimana nih. Gimana, mau dicoba lagi atau?
Belum bisa, Pak. Masih belum
silakan.
bisa. Mungkin boleh diputar masing-masing, Pak. Soalnya masih belum bisa juga di device saya.
Oke, kalau begitu mungkin film ini atau 3 film ini bisa diputar oleh teman-teman ya di rumah, karena kebetulan device saya dan juga mungkin Bu Dini harus disetting ulang karena suaranya nggak muncul ya. Jadi sama dengan seperti pada saat pendahuluan atau awal tadi, ternyata suaranya tidak keluar meskipun gambarnya itu sudah ada. Nah, karena itu mungkin untuk hari ini, jadi ya mungkin cukup sekian ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Jadi finally, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our activities for today webinar is finished. We would like to thanks to speakers, Prof. Ferry, thank you for interesting presentation and films. Moderator Budini, thank you, and our participants who have participated in today's activities. We apologize for any shortcomings in organizing this event. Nah, karena Prof. Z ada keperluan lain, because he has other duties, jadi dia tidak bisa seterusnya dengan kita. Nah, yang terakhir, finally, ladies and gentlemen, for documentation, please open the camera ya. Jadi kita akan foto dulu untuk dokumentasi di program kami atau di program Register Ekonomi Terapan. Mungkin Bapak Ibu silakan bisa open kamera ya. Jadi yang terakhir Bapak Ibu sekalian, mohon maaf. Please open kamera, thank you. Oke, saya akan hitung. 1. Ini masih ada yang belum buka kamera ya Bapak Ibu ya. Oke. Jadi saya akan foto. 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi, 1, 2, 3. Oke, terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for participating today. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mungkin cukup sekian ya Bapak Ibu sekalian ya untuk webinar hari ini. Jadi terima kasih pada Bapak Ibu sekalian yang sudah partisipasi untuk kegiatan hari ini. Mungkin nanti apabila ada webinar lagi, kita akan informasikan lagi ke Bapak Ibu sekalian. Thank you for the Prof. Ferry ya, yang sudah menyajikan informasi mengenai masalah Agribusiness Digitalization in Agribusiness ya, tadi seperti itu. Itu aja mungkin ya untuk hari ini Bapak Ibu sekalian. Mungkin Prof. Ferry-nya sedang menyupir ya, sedang driving ya, sedang driver ya, seperti itu.
Terima kasih
mungkin
Pak.
ada pertanyaan lagi atau cukup sekian nih? Terima kasih ya Bapak Ibu ya.
Terima kasih Pak.
Gitu ya. Jadi izin live ya Bapak Ibu ya.
Ya.
Sama-sama. Jangan lupa mengisi absen ya.
Siap.
Oke, sip.
Assalamualaikum Pak, izin live.
Waalaikumsalam. Izin live Bapak Ibu ya. Salam sehat.